Two-year-old Tyrannic has already earned more than $500,000, thanks largely to her win in the rich gold nugget at Coolangatta. Connections are hoping for a repeat performance in next week's Brambles Classic at Kembla Grange, where a win would see the filly qualify for the $2 million Golden Slipper.
It's just to get in a race like that in the Slipper, where you've got one of the best two-year-olds in a top 10, top 15 two-year-olds in Australia, so if she can run up to them or beat them in the Brambles and get a start, it'd be just a terrific bonus.
Today's barrier trial provided some testing opposition from the Max Lees-trained Jester Royale, and the Grey's performance indicates she too will be a top chance in the Brambles.
She raced well here the other day. You know, it took TS all this time to beat her, and they did run 110, and it was only a fourth start in the race, so she's improving all the time, and I think she'll give a good account of herself if she draws well.
Tyrannic's connections weren't worried by her performance and say a decent barrier will make the filly the one to beat next week.
Well, she's not a real flashy track worker at the best of times. The horse that ran Stone Motherless last and the Nugget beat her in the last lead-up gallop to the Nugget, so I'm not real perturbed about her. She doesn't let herself exert on the track, so she's a bit of a lazy horse. But no, as I say, they've run 45 today. That's carving it right out.
"18-year-old John Puljak suffered severe cuts to the leg and arm before managing to shake himself free from the 2-metre animal.
When I seen it latch onto my leg, I knew I was in big trouble. I just had to fight it off. I was panicking, sort of. Just had to get it off, and then it latched onto my wrist. Grabbed it pretty tight in the wrist and fought it off there too.
The first group of Allied prisoners came out of Iraq tonight free at last in Jordan, where the Red Cross turned them over to representatives of their respective governments. There were 6 Americans, including the coalition's only female POW, Belissa Rathbun Neely. When they were released in Baghdad, the Red Cross said all were in good health, a marked contrast to the last time we saw some of them, like Navy pilot Jeffrey Zahn. Shot down on day 1 of the war, he spoke woodenly to a camera at Iraqi TV. Or British pilot John Peters, whose forced appearance and interrogation outraged viewers around the world. He has yet to tell the story of how he received his wounds.
At 8, a university degree is probably low on the list of William Setty's priorities, but nevertheless, the Year 2 pupil at Mayfield's Christ the King Primary School has already passed one of the greatest tests facing any tertiary hopeful, money. William's name was pulled out of a barrel of almost $20,000, and his prize, financial support to pursue a tertiary education.
It's paid for up to, for a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 6 years full-time study, and it's paid directly to the student as a monthly cheque for that student to use, if you like, as pocket money, but to pay for whatever expenses that they might incur.
Organised by the Australian Scholarship Trust, the competition was open to any child under 10 years, with a winner being chosen in each state. In monetary value, the scholarship's worth about $10,000. Today at the Mayfield School, a somewhat bewildered Setty family was presented with a scholarship certificate. William's father had found the entry form stuffed in his mailbox. He sent it off, then promptly forgot about it, until the trust rang him to tell him William had won. But the luck wasn't all William's. Also included was a $1,000 cheque for his school, presented today to a grateful principal, Danny Antonini, who says it will be put to good use developing the school's computer and music program. For the 9 independent schools gathered at Lambton Pool today, it was a first. In the past, there had been inadequate numbers and interest to bother with a regional carnival, but with the recent additions of the Scone and Hunter Valley Grammars, the various principals decided it was time to combine. About 170 events were staged, with the fastest qualifiers from the various individual carnivals competing. The 2 outstanding performers of the day were both from St Philip's Christian College at Waratah. 17-year-old Leslie Absalon set 7 new records, while Alex Phillips set 5 new records. Best performers from the 5 Christian colleges will attend their state championships later this month, but that won't be the end of local inter-school competition.
In term 2 we've got the cross-country carnivals, and then in term 3 we've got the athletics carnivals, which all the schools will be associated with. And the sky's the limit, so it's really good.
Plenty of enthusiasm too at the Maitland Pool, where the state regional high schools swam in their championships. 40 schools were involved, among them 2 state champions in Newcastle High's Philippa Reeves and Cardiff's Jared Anthony. Both won their age championships and will be among a team of almost 250, which will go to the state champs in Sydney in April. Last year, the Hunter performed strongly there, winning the girls division and coming 3rd in the boys, and with most of those swimmers in this year's team, that's expected to be repeated.
Britax supplies automotive electrical equipment to car manufacturers, an industry hit hard by the recession. Holden, Nissan and Ford have all wound down operations in Australia, in some cases temporarily closing factories and forcing workers to take holidays. 3 weeks ago, the managers of Britax met with staff to discuss options for riding out what will be a period of low demand for Britax products. Rather than a series of retrenchments, employees from management to the shop floor opted for a pay cut and a shorter working week. The plant will now lie idle each Friday for what is hoped will only be a 10-week period. Over the next 12 months, Britax plans to manufacture 46 new product lines, and the company hopes that expansion will take up the slack created by Australia's flagging economy. Alison Peters, NBN News.
The Central Coast's senior citizens packed at a Long Beach War Memorial Club for what is now a traditional part of the week's celebrations. Concert entertainment was diverse, from stand-up comics to multicultural presentations. But perhaps the biggest attraction was guest of honour Hazel Hawke. Mrs Hawke gave a short address at the close of the concert before spending some time speaking in person to individuals from the audience. Her husband could only envy her personal popularity rating. The PM's missus certainly enjoys a status that transcends political boundaries. But she observed that the nation's elderly were indeed an increasingly significant force.
The percentage of older people in our population is increasing, and so there's a very real need to plan for them in economic and political terms, to plan so that their older years are enjoyable and comfortable ones.
But when it comes to planning for the future, Paul Keating could take no comfort in Mrs Hawke's revelation that she and her husband have no plans for early retirement themselves.
Well, no, I mean, we're very busy. It's enjoyable, it's fast and busy and always full of interest, and we've always tended to take life as it comes and not get too hung up on plans and structures. We take it as it comes.
This park at Fly Point was once HMAS Assault, the Navy's first amphibious warfare training base set up during the Second World War. For the 800 young rookies, it was a pioneering commando-style training, equipping them to beach landing craft in often unknown island territories. The knowledge gained during their raids on often badly charted beaches in the southwest Pacific helped form the base of modern-day amphibious training.
I would like to think that you people can stand proud and remember that it is not a dead and gone memorial, it's a living memorial, and all those skills and doctrines that you developed are still alive today.
This week, 120 of those men returned to base for a poignant and historic dedication of the site. Though the buildings are long gone, the memories of those days back in the early 40s remain as vivid as ever.
It's brought a lot of us chaps together after almost 50 years. And chaps from Western Australia, Tasmania, actually every state in Australia have come to this, their old naval depot where they got their really rookie training on assault landing barges.
A lot of things happened here, a lot of people came and they were trained here, and a lot of things happened, a lot of great friendships and mateships were made here, and it's really in everybody's heart. It's some place that, should always be here for us.
It was an honour, and I feel very proud to have served with these boys, those present, those past.
Standing proud in the blue seas off Fly Point was HMAS Botano, named after a wartime disaster at Botano Bay in Portuguese Timor. It was here that Australia's HMAS Voyager was lost while landing in guerrilla war with the Japanese. Her crew were not trained in amphibious warfare. Rear Admiral David Holthouse unveiled the plaque as part of his first duties as Flag Officer, Naval Support Command. Significant was his supporting crew, sailors from HMAS Botano. But while the veterans caught up with old times, they didn't forget their colleagues who never returned from those treacherous Pacific islands. At Port Stephens Cenotaph, wreaths were laid in their memory, memories that will remain forever in the hearts of those who serve in the Australian Navy.
Hill's clothes hoists have been part of the Australian backyard for almost 50 years. They've evolved from the old metal merry-go-round style to slick space-saving units, and last year the company turned out its 5 millionth hoist. To mark the occasion, a $20,000 voucher was attached to the unit as it came off the production line. It was Steve Howlett's lucky day when he bought it for his mother-in-law, luckier still when he decided to erect it.
And I opened the box and here was this ticket. The competition closed on the Monday, and this being the Saturday, I didn't even think I'd get it in. But I decided to go for it. It was worth a chance, and I filled it in. It got there on time and we won $20,000, so it was quite incredible.
This is one way of getting the family to help with the washing. Steve and his wife Joanne have 3 children. They'll put the money toward a deposit on a home of their own. Does it make the washing any easier a task to bear?
I love hanging out the nappies of the morning. It's terrific. I go out there every morning, and I wrote a letter thanking them for the prize, and I told them that I give it a kiss every morning when I hang the nappies out. It's yes, it's a great pleasure.
At 32 years of age, Robert Thompson has just about done everything a hoop would want to do, ridden more winners than most other jockeys and received the accolades for representing his country in international competition. In the past 12 seasons, Robert has won the Newcastle Jockeys Premiership on 10 occasions and regularly rides over 100 winners a year. But the desire to ride overseas on a permanent basis has always been there.
I've always wanted to have a season overseas somewhere, Mike, and this has come up, and as I said, my application's been cleared and everything, so I'm going to give it a go.
A true gentleman in the sport of kings, Robert has endeared himself to his legion of fans right around Australia, and no one will begrudge this quietly spoken man the enormous earning potential he now finds himself in. But it wasn't easy getting a start.
It's very hard to get in. I believe there was about 150 jockeys from all over the world wanted to get in this season coming up, so as I said, it's very hard to get in.
And a great ally will be former Novocastrian Neville Begg, who now trains in Hong Kong.
Neville's heard that I'm coming and all that, and he was in contact with me the other night, and he's promised me plenty of rides when I go up there, and he's looking for a stable jockey next season, so who knows.
On Sunday week, Robert, along with his wife Jenny, will jet out to Hong Kong for a 4-week stint that could develop into a 3-year contract.
"15 years ago, Grandview Road was a quiet dead-end street in New Lambton Heights, but a housing boom opened the road to through traffic from new subdivisions in Rankin Park. As well, a no-right turn in a parallel street has diverted more traffic into Grandview, making it a major thoroughfare. Residents estimate 400 vehicles pass through in an hour. Each week there's a collision, each year a major smash.
One car written off, one car at the curb smashed into from behind, one car on the drive smashed into on the side. We've had someone crash onto this yard here and crash onto my yard and the one on the other side of me.
The road is steep and winding, but residents say after repeated inquiries to council, they've turned to member for Wallsend John Mills to get something done. Mr Mills took submissions today. He said any major changes would have to go through a council traffic committee. The residents say simply removing the no right turn in parallel McCaffrey Drive would take a heavy load off their road and indeed their minds.
When John Hannon looks at the future of the Hunter Valley's coal mining industry, he sees a contrasting picture. Boom times for the private companies, bleak ones for some of the Elcom mines now up for sale.
One or two of the Elcom mines that lost out on contracts recently.
When John Hannon looks at the future of the Hunter Valley's coal mining industry, he sees a contrasting picture. Boom times for the private companies, bleak ones for some of the Elcom mines now up for sale.
One or two of the Elcom mines that lost out on contracts recently to the power stations may have a bit of a struggle to survive.
Elcom mines have traditionally sold low-grade coal to the state's power stations, but a privatised market system would see them forced to either slash production costs or close entirely.
The state government's made it very clear that they're going to buy the cheapest coal they can for their power stations to keep electricity costs down. And so supplies from power stations more and more from now on will be won by way of tender. If a particular mine has a cost structure that won't allow it to tender at a low enough price to get into the market, then it really does have a problem in where it sells its coal, particularly if that coal isn't of a quality that you can sell on the export market.
The light at the end of the tunnel comes in the form of an increasingly healthy export market. The current financial year looms as a record one for the Port of Newcastle.
The long-term prospect, I think, even with those, perhaps a couple of those mines closing, is overall an increase in production and an increase in requirement for labour. So even with those mines phasing out, if they do phase out, and that's by no means certain, the pickup in the other mines, I think, will more than compensate for that.
Jimmy Barnes is known and loved as the loud man of Australian music. Too loud, it seems, for many Novocastrians.
There were many complaints that night from people who were concerned about the noise, and council is acting on their behalf as well as acting in the interests of the community as a whole.
Council last night voted to prosecute the promoter of the Barnes concert under the Noise Control Act, a process which could cost thousands and result in a fine of just $500.
Any promoter could come to this city at any time, and irrespective of what requirements they had to meet under their licensing arrangements, they could just flout that. Now, that's not something that ought to happen, and I think the council is acting properly in saying, well, we must contest this.
Promoter Peter Anderson is baffled.
I don't think anyone has done anything wrong at all. In fact, I think from the audience to the musicians to the whole organisation of the event, it was a very successful event.
Prepared to take it on the chin and cough up the $500 though?
Would you?
According to a council report, it's unlikely the situation will arise again for two reasons. A new entertainment centre should be built on the site within a year, and the anticipated instigation of proceedings against the Showground Trust to prevent any future outdoor event which has a high noise potential. Which in plain English means if anyone tries to stage another concert here at the Showground before the entertainment centre is built, Council will consider taking Supreme Court action to stop them. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
Rosa Thomas and David Cairns properties border the sanitary waste depot, a series of dams and ponds which, according to council, contains perfectly legal untreated sewage and pump out from grease traps.
Well, is there any pollution problems?
Well, I don't really believe that there's a great problem out there.
It's a stench, a septic stench.
Residents say in the last 2 years traffic has increased dramatically onto the site. The waste ponds overflow and effluent seeps into the soil and onto neighbouring property. Despite assurances that no toxic chemicals are brought in, farmer David Cairn isn't sure.
As far as I'm concerned, anything could be going in there, and speaking to truck drivers, anything is going in there.
Council has promised to increase checks on contractors bringing in waste. A boom gate will be put in to stop illegal dumpers. Acting Shire Engineer Brian Carter says the site is perfectly safe.
How would you like to live beside the depot?
It wouldn't worry me, I wouldn't mind living there. It's quite a nice area actually.
It may not be health food exactly, but the new hamburger McDonald's touted today has shed some fat.
It's 91% fat-free and 100% delicious.
The burger, called the McLean Deluxe, is made with lean beef, water, a seaweed extract, and vegetable protein. It has half the fat of a quarter pounder, about the same as a grilled chicken sandwich.
So this stuff really is a breakthrough. It is truly leaner. That's not to say McDonald's has wiped the fat and salt off their menus, however.
Burgers, fries, and shakes no longer rule the fast food landscape. The big chains not only sell salads now, many cook in vegetable oil instead of animal fat. Bran muffins compete against eggs. Yogurt replaces ice cream. The new fast food burger may be better for you, but many in the fast food business suspect its introduction has less to do with good nutrition than sluggish sales.